I've seen this game be unjustly tossed aside for years now. Nobody ever seems to mention it in any lists or retrospectives or anything. You hear about the first two Donkey Kong Country games all the damn time. The first for its revolutionary graphics and introducing us to the modern DK universe, and the second game because, boy, people sure do seem to love that thing. Hell, I bet there are plenty of people out there who don't even know there is in fact a third Donkey Kong Country game. Released in 1996 and overshadowed by the impending release of the Nintendo 64, Donkey Kong Country 3: Dixie Kong's Double Trouble is the third Donkey Kong game made by Rare before their eventual slow, untimely death at the hands of Microsoft, and have lowered themselves to making whatever the crap this thing is. DKC 3 is merely a victim of timing, and I believe, had it released earlier in the generation, it would have fared much better and be remembered by more than just collectors and diehard fans. So, to counteract the criminal underratedness of this lost gem, I'll be devoting this video to telling you all about the game, and hopefully convince you to give it a try yourself. You know how positive review type things go around here. Story, gameplay, presentation. Let's get started and tackle them one at a time. Oh, but before I begin though, I want to point out, I'll be playing on the Wii U Virtual Console release of the game. I usually prefer to play it on the original SNES, but the footage quality was not great to say the least. So the Wii U with its HDMI port was the best way to go. I bring this up because the Wii U maintains the aspect ratio on old games. That's why there's black bars on the sides of the footage, just in case you were curious why I would make a video in 4:3. You know, I've been playing this game for literally as long as I can remember. It's probably the first game I have memories of playing, but I had no clue there even was a story until pretty recently, as there's no in-game indication of any sort of plot going on. Not long after DKC 2, Donkey Kong and Diddy were having a relaxing vacation in the Northern Hemisphere, an area of the Mario universe that is apparently based on Canada, making it the best video game world by default, when suddenly they go missing. Dixie gets worried when the duo never return and heads off to go find them with the help of Funky and her young cousin Kiddy Kong. They discover that the Northern Hemisphere is under siege by Kremlings, led by their new master, an evil robot named Chaos. But the overabundance of K's should clue you in on who's really behind this mess. No, not them! Oh, Jesus Christ, I hope not. Of course, the mastermind is the newly inducted Smasher himself, King k.rool. This time, he's adopting the persona of Baron k.roolenstein, a mad scientist with some visual similarities to Frankenstein's monster. Despite some mistranslated materials leading some to think otherwise, King k.rool is the villain of all three Donkey Kong Country games. He's just wearing different disguises. It's not different people. K.rool brainwashed DK and Diddy and trapped them in his Chaos Robot to throw Dixie off his trail, as well as imprisoning the magical Banana Bird Queen to prevent her from standing in his way. Eventually, K.rool is defeated, DK and Diddy are saved, the Northern Hemisphere is liberated, and Kiddy is locked in a basement or something, never to be seen or heard from again. At least that's what I assume happened, cause that little fucker never shows up again. At its core, Donkey Kong Country 3 is a standard 2D platformer, very similar to its previous two incarnations. You play as two Kongs, each with their own special characteristics, jumping, rolling, climbing, and swimming through a bunch of different levels and collecting various hidden items along the way. While both Kongs can run, jump, and roll, they each have a few unique moves that make them useful in different situations. Dixie is the smaller and more agile of the two. She holds throwable objects above her head with her prehensile ponytail, but throws them rather slowly and at an awkward angle, making it a pain to hit certain enemies, but incredibly easy with others. Her most defining move returns from DKC 2, luckily, the helicopter spin. By holding Y after a jump, you can slow your descent dramatically, making more difficult platforming sections a breeze, as well as allowing you to reach areas you couldn't get to otherwise. She can pick up Kiddy and toss him, but struggles to do so, only using this ability to throw his big ol' ass and break open passages. Kiddy is the larger and stronger Kong, playing much like Donkey Kong in the original Donkey Kong Country. He holds throwable objects in front of him, and not only throws them faster and farther, but also suffers from no speed penalty when carrying something. It also feels like he climbs things faster, but the difference is either negligible or non-existent and my eyes are just playing tricks on me. While not having a hover, Kiddy does possess what is easily the hardest to execute maneuver in any Donkey Kong game. that being the roll skip. By rolling off dry land into a body of water and pressing B at just the right time when you touch it, Kitty can skip across the water like a stone, gaining more height with each accurate button press. I feel like even the devs knew this move was way too hard to consistently pull off, as it only has a use twice, and is only needed once, as the other instance can also be completed with Dixie's propeller spin. Kitty can also throw Dixie, and because of his strength, he has a much easier time of it than she does. You can toss her up to higher areas, and Kitty will inexplicably magnet to her. This ability is rarely, if ever, required in normal level progression, as it requires both Kongs be alive to perform it, but it is mandatory to get a majority of the secrets. Like other games in the series, this game's controls are tight, weighty, and have just the right amount of momentum to make platforming challenging, but fun and responsive. A neat addition I really enjoy is the ability to freely move around the world map and explore. As you progress, you'll find parts that Funky can use to make you new boats that you need to access different areas. And damn if it isn't fun to zip around the map and find secrets on your own, as opposed to being stuck on a preset path like the first two games. Now, of course, animal buddies and vehicle levels return as well, but rather than cover them all individually now, I want to cover them in the next section. See, one of the reasons I love DKC 3 so much, and think it's such a good game, is the variety of levels. While basic themes are reused from time to time, the actual content of every single level is different. Each one possesses its own gimmick or design that separates it from the others and stands out in its own way, really helping to give the game a memorable quality.
But John, how could every level be different? That seems impossible.
Well then, why don't I show you? Don't worry if you want to play the game on your own, I won't be showing but a few seconds of each level to illustrate my point, and I certainly won't be showing you where the secrets are. That's the most fun part after all. The first world is Lake Orangatanga, and as its name implies, it's a lakeside area with a number of abandoned factories as well as a snow-covered mountain to the north. The first level is Lakeside Limbo. It's also the first level in the Stilt Village theme, with a simple layout that gets you acclimated to controls and special moves. These boardwalk levels are the ones I really enjoy the most. There's just something about the mix of upbeat music and the simple bright design that I really like. Doorstop Dash is the first level with the Mill Fever theme. The gimmick here is these levers that work like time switches to open the metal shutters. Hang on to them until they fully extend and then hurry to the door before it closes. Tidal Trouble is another stilt-themed level that takes place at dawn, featuring an emphasis on swimming that serves as a safe testing ground before we get to bigger water levels later on. Skidda's Row is the first level in the snow theme. As the name implies, the area is full of Kremlings called Skiddas that slide all over the place, but they're not the only ones, as the Kongs also slide on the ground in snow levels. It is very slight though, so it never gets frustrating or annoying. Murky Mill is another mill-themed level, set in a dark building with only swinging lamps lighting the way. This is the first Animal Buddy stage, and it revolves around the newcomer animal, Ellie the elephant. Ellie can still lift barrels and jump like the Kongs, but she can also pull barrels to her by sucking with her trunk. The problem is that she's terrified of mice, so if there's one in a spotlight and you see it, Ellie will automatically retreat in fear. Belch's Barn is the first boss fight, played by busting open these barrels and tossing the bugs into Belch's open mouth. It's good to use this fight to practice precision throwing, because you'll be needing it later. Being able to quickly grab and throw barrels in precise locations will be a vital skill later on. The Kremwood Forest is the next world, an obvious pun on Redwood Forest. Kremwood is a deep forest with incredibly tall trees and a river running through the center. Barrel's Shield Bust Up is the first level in this world. It is also the first level with the treetop tumble theme. The Kongs have to climb up the carved out trees and use these barrel shields to avoid the nuts being thrown by dozens of angry Minkeys. Riverside Race is the first level with the riverbank theme. Right away, you'll notice the timer in the corner and the fact you're being chased by a horde of tiny buzzes. The timer doesn't mean anything on a normal run, you can clear the level regardless of time, but I bet something would happen if you beat that 1:15 record. Squeals on Wheels is a mill level with more shuttered doors, only now instead of pulling levers, you have to defeat all of the nearby squeals, powering them up with well-placed barrel throws. Springing Spiders is the next treetop-themed level. This one heavily focuses on Nids, small spiders with planks on their back who can help you reach higher areas. They're listed as enemies, but they don't harm you in any way, so don't worry about touching them. Bobbing Barrel Brawl is another riverbank level, and also another Ellie level. Using her ability to suck up and fire water, as well as careful barrel tosses, you have to traverse the bodies of water without falling in, lest you be almost instantly chomped by Nibblers. The boss level of Kremwood Forest is Auric's Ambush. Auric is a giant spider who shoots balls of venoms and has claws on the ends of his feet. To defeat him, you have to jump off his back and grab the barrels that spawn on a nearby branch before smashing him in the chin with them. Auric drops a patch when defeated that can be brought back to Funky Kong, who uses it to make you a new vehicle, the Hovercraft. The Hovercraft allows you to float over rocks, which opens up access to two more worlds, Cotton Top Cove and Mechanos. They can be tackled in whatever order you like. However, I would suggest Cotton Top Cove tackled third, as the levels are easier than those in Mechanos. Cotton Top is a cliffside water world, but thankfully only has 2 underwater levels within it. The first of which is Boz's Blockade. There's no land in this area, it's all swimming, and avoiding the quick bosses who zip across the screen from cave to cave. Rocket Barrel Ride is waterfall level numero uno. These levels require you to ascend the cliff face using various methods. In this case, it's these rocket barrels that shoot up once you enter them before firing you out. Creeping Clasps is unfortunately the final stealth-themed level. This one is all about shimmying on the ropes above the water, avoiding the explosive clasps and the nibbles below. Tracker Barrel Trek follows up the previous waterfall level by also including barrels, but these are a bit different. Rather than moving you from place to place, you move these barrels on your own. The barrels will shoot you up, and during that time they'll follow underneath you to a T, so no worries about landing back inside. Fish Food Frenzy is an underwater level where you're followed by a blue Nibbler. Over time he'll slowly turn red and attack you, but you can prevent this by running him into fish so he can eat them. Don't let him eat the lurchins though. Squirt Showdown is the boss level of Cotton Top, hosting a creepy crab face on the side of a cliff named Squirt. You play as Ellie for this boss and avoid his streams of water before shooting him in the eyes. He'll drop a single ski when defeated, and we'll have to head to Mechanos to find the other one. Mechanos is a heavily industrialized island, and the home base of Chaos for the moment. The first level here is Fireball Frenzy, and is the initial machine theme stage. The Kongs have to traverse the smelting plant, while owls in the backgrounds called carbines shoot balls of molten lead into the foreground. You can't reach them or damage them in any way, so it's all about timing and positioning to avoid their attacks. Demolition Drain Pipe is the first tube level, as well as the first to feature the toboggan. The toboggan is essentially the minecart from DKC 1, but a bit more manageable as the track isn't constantly falling out from under you. The stage has these bars along the top that you can freely grab onto and jump off of. Switching between them is the key to not crashing into everything. Ripsaw Rage is a treetop level, and easily the hardest stage up to this point. You have to clamber up the trees like usual, but there's a gigantic ripsaw that covers the bottom of the screen, inching its way towards you, so you'll have to work fast, especially if you're trying to find all the secrets. Blazing Bazookas is a machine level that's filled with these tiny cremlings called, well, I think you can figure it out. They fire different barrels from the giant launcher on their backs. You can bounce along them as they fly towards you with some careful mid-air placement. Low-G Labyrinth was my favorite level as a kid. It's a tube stage filled with a strange green gas that causes the Kongs to float as if they were in space, allowing you to make huge jumps that you couldn't otherwise. There's also an area where you play as Quox the Parrot, a large purple bird who can fly, as well as pick up barrels that are used to defeat enemies in your path. With all the other levels completed, Dixie and Kitty arrive at Chaos Carnage, where the new head of the Kremlings, Chaos, resides. He'll try to burn you with his thruster and slice you with his blades, but you can actually jump on if you time it right. As the game would be rather underwhelming if you defeated the final boss now, Chaos manages to escape, but drops the other ski on his way out. With their newly acquired pair of skis, the Kongs head back to Funky, where he makes them a jet ski, which has enough speed to ascend waterfalls. Now, at the northernmost point of the Kremisphere, you have access to K3, a reference to the real-life mountain K2. K3 is exactly what it looks like, a snowy mountain, not much else to say. First up is obviously a snow level, and... oh. Yeah, I guess it isn't. This is Crevice Creepers, the first cliffside level. Much like the treetops, these stages involve finding various methods to work your way up. In this case, it's a series of horizontal ropes that more often than not have explosive clasps on them that will try to smash into you. Tearaway Toboggan is a snowy obstacle course that requires the use of the toboggan once again. There's no poles to grip onto and save you this time though, so keeping yourself alive is going to rely entirely on quick reflexes and a little memorization. Barrel Drop Bounce is a waterfall stage, and the most punishing one by far. Much like the logs from Super Mario Bros. 2, barrels will roll down the waterfalls and you'll have to move along hastily to make your jumps. The barrels don't exactly drift down slowly, so this level can be a little finicky, especially if you get hit and are left without Dixie in her helicopter spin. Crackshot Croc is a machine level where you play as Squitter the Spider, avoiding the crosshairs of an invisible Kremling trying to snipe you. Squitter can shoot webs as projectiles, but more importantly, can create suspended webs in midair that can be used as platforms to cross large gaps or reach high areas. Lemguin Lunge is a snow level that's pretty normal, save for the holes that constantly eject these enemies called Lemguins that slide down hills at you till they reach a pit in a never-ending chain of penguin-based terrorism. Bleak's house is the most unique boss fight in the game. The battle takes place in third person, with the Kongs moving around to dodge Bleak's attacks and toss snowballs at his glowing weak points. Bleak doesn't drop anything, but defeating him does open up the way to the next world, Razor Ridge. Razor Ridge is a mountainous area with a small lake in the center. There's a set of chairlifts that are run by a pair of bear brothers that you'll have to use to see the whole area. The first level here, Buzzer Barrage, has a new aesthetic, that being the cavern theme. You play as Quox again and use his flight and barrel lifting to clear out the buzzers blocking the way, as well as avoid these Kremcopters. Kong Fuse Cliffs, which may be the longest stretch at getting a pun into a level title I've ever seen, is a cliffside level and a vertical auto-scroller. The rope required to keep moving is burning away at the bottom, forcing you to move up and avoid obstacles without putzing around too much or you won't have any rope to grab onto. Floodlit Fish, an underwater level, is pitch dark, or At least it's supposed to be. This is probably the result of playing this on a modern TV, but I can actually see the level almost perfectly. Anyway, this is the first level to require the use of Onguard the Swordfish, who uses his pointed nose to stab these little guys and make them release the light inside them. Nothing morally reprehensible about that at all. Pothole Panic is a cavern level that feels like it probably should have been closer to the end of the game, as it features almost every animal companion you've encountered in a gauntlet-style stage. Ropey Rumpus is a cliffside level that features you, get this, climbing upwards. This level is the one I feel is completely bland and forgettable, as it's just a combination of the previous two cliffside levels with some buzzes thrown in. The boss of Rager Ridge is Barbos. The boss is Barbos. The hardest boss for me in the game, and the one that always tripped me up when I was younger. Mostly because he's underwater and requires precision, and damn do I hate water levels in platformers. He fires projectiles like thorns, lurchins, and missile shells, and to hurt him, you have to find various ways to use these to your advantage. With all the Kremling leaders defeated, the path to the final world, Chaos Core, is revealed. The giant castle and the grounds around it are home to some pretty challenging stages, so best make sure you're stocked up on lives before continuing. Conveyor Rope Clash is first, and it's actually the first jungle level we've come across despite this being a Donkey Kong game. The main obstacle here are the titular conveyor ropes that move left and right at various speeds. I'm running out of different and creative ways to describe all these levels at this point. Just stick with me for a few more. Creepy Caverns is well, I think you know what theme it is. The level is filled with ghost barrels that phase in and out of existence, only being usable when they're visible. They also have a tendency to switch directions in between vanishing. Lightning Lookout is, oh my, it's something. A riverbank stage set during a fierce lightning storm. Bolts of light strike the ground, and the Kongs if you're not careful. The level is smart though. If you try and keep running to stay ahead of the lightning, it'll start striking in front of you rather than on top of you. This is a tough one for sure. Coindozer Clamor prominently features these purple Kremlings called Coindozers. Their charge attack, while not lethal, has a tendency to stun lock you until you fall into a bottomless pit. You cannot kill them, but they'll follow you with their shield, so if you jump over them, you can use them as platforms. Poisonous Pipeline is the final standard level in the game. It's a pipe level as well as an underwater level. The entire place is filled with a purple liquid that reverses your controls and makes this thing a nightmare. Not because it's overly hard, just because you have to train your brain to reverse controls on the fly. And at last, we arrive at the final boss lair, Castle Chaos. Inside the fortress, the Kongs battle Chaos once again in a strangely easy encounter. But after destroying him, Baron k.rool reveals himself as the true villain, and I'm so shocked who could have seen this coming. You use barrels to destroy his jetpack and rescue DK and Diddy. Now, you could just turn the game off now and say, job well done, but you're gonna want to hold off on that for a moment, because we aren't done yet. This is a rare game after all, so there's plenty of collectibles to, well, collect. Head back to the world map, and pay attention to this circle of rocks. If you drive around it a few times, this is Krematoa, the Lost World. You'll need to have obtained every bonus coin in the game to clear the boulders that block your path. Paying this bear 15 coins will convince him to lend you his explosive expertise and open up one new level each time. Bonus coins are obtained from bosses, or more abundantly, from the 2 or 3 bonus barrels contained in each level. Each barrel contains a different challenge that will reward you with a coin upon completion. Some of the challenges are pretty difficult, but finding all the bonus barrels is the real challenge. The barrels tend to be hidden just off screen, behind scenery, under an enemy, and various other places that will test your knowledge of where developers hide secrets. Some of them get strict too, only allowing 1 life per attempt, with the only way to try again being to die or play the entire level again. You'll also need the bonus coins within the Lost Worlds levels to completely open up the area, which is easier said than done, as the Lost World levels blow the standard stages away in terms of difficulty. I do want to leave some stuff a secret though, so I'll just say they all have very different gimmicks and playstyles and end it there. Eventually you'll face k.rool again in a much more difficult fight, more befitting of a final boss. The Kongs defeat him, and then, after all your hard work, I'm not skimping you here. There's no cutscene or anything. Just a DK coin. What the hell gives? See, unlike DKC 2, DKC 3 requires the DK coins to get the true ending. DK coins are collected from Kremlings called coins, with a K, because haha Kremlings. There's one in each of the 39 levels, as well as the extra one you get for beating k.rool in the Lost World. Trading all 40 in to Funky nets you the Gyrocopter, which you can use to reach parts of the world map you couldn't before. By traveling to the cloudy area in the top left, you'll encounter the Queen Banana Bird, who is trapped by a magic barrier that can only be dispelled with the help of her children. So you'll have to head around to the other parts of the world and do a few different things to acquire these banana-shaped crimes against nature. Most banana birds are hidden inside caves that require you to play a memory game to get them. These caves tend to have their entrances hidden and must be interacted with to reveal themselves. The other way to get banana birds is the Brothers Bear, alliteration. These are a mostly friendly clan of bears who live in log cabins around the northern hemisphere. You trade them either bear coins or other items, and they'll give you a bird or a hint as to where a bird is. Collect all the birds and return to the queen to get the 100% ending. So, it's been said before by a million people more eloquent than I, but the Donkey Kong Country trilogy had amazing graphics for the time. The visuals created by modeling 3D characters and items, then taking snapshots of them at various points in motion, and converting said images into sprites, kinda like stop motion. Though the effect may look a little dated by today's standards, it's still miles ahead of what similar games were doing around the same time. It gives the entire game a distinct, recognizable look that can't be mistaken for anything but Donkey Kong Country. Now, this is the part where I talk about the music, because in everything I talk about I always bring up the music. I really don't have anything to say other than that it's fantastic, and a lot of these tracks are unjustly forgotten due to the game's low popularity. Take yourselves a listen. You may have noticed a lot of this music is simple and soothing, rather than peppy and rhythm heavy. This is used as a criticism sometimes, but I personally enjoyed the more laid-back soundtrack. If you play the GBA port, however, you will not be hearing any of this, and instead be listening to an entirely new OST made specifically for the GBA's bizarre sound chip. I'm gonna be honest about this, I hate most of it. I don't think it sounds bad. On their own, the tracks are pretty damn good, and I can't stress that enough. Most of the tracks are really good on their own, they just don't fit the levels or the theming of the game to me. The music is good, it's not great. That doesn't mean you can't like it. It's just my opinion. And just because I don't think something is as good as everyone else does, doesn't give you a free license to don't fucking start. I privated that stupid shit. I can't go back to the Half-Life 2 video. I just can't. The sound's not my only issue with the GBA port. Like I said, the OST is really good, just misplaced. It's not a reason to dismiss the entire port. The graphics, though, oh my, the visuals are all butchered to hell and back in order to be visible on the GBA's notoriously hard to see screen. And while it is a good port for what it is, and is probably the best they could do with the hardware, I can't stress enough that you should play the SNES original if you plan on enjoying this game. The colors are supremely washed out, and all the sprites are shrunk down. The GBA version works in a pinch, but with the Super Nintendo Virtual Console version being like $6 on the Wii U or 3DS, that's still your best bet. And that's all I've got to say about Donkey Kong Country 3. I didn't really have any special point or anything I wanted to make. I just kind of wanted to bring more attention to this game that I love so much, and I have for so many years, and no one seems to have played it, and the people who have played it don't seem to like it. So I hope that maybe I've piqued your interest or changed your mind and made you want to go play it for yourself. That's really all I'm going for. I'm terrible at ending videos. Thank you for watching. Likes and subscriptions and all that nonsense is very much appreciated, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.